Hello and welcome back. This is the finished result that you will have from finishing this tutorial. We will take what we started in level 1 and we'll push it a little bit further by grunging it up and making it look like this graffiti has been on the wall for a while. Okay, let's get started. Okay, this is where we left off with level 1. So one thing you'll see, I'm just going to middle mouse to scroll around in my view here, and one thing that doesn't really help looking with this like a graffiti wall is that it's just really too perfect. So if I zoom in closely here, this is a perfectly fine line, and this is as if this has just been painted. It hasn't been the real world. There's no wear and tear. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to kind of grunge up our image here so it just looks more realistic. So you're going to want to open up your image in the editor of your choice. So whether that's Photoshop, GIMP, Krita, whatever you want really. I'm going to use Photoshop for this. So what we're going to do here, so I have my image. It's got a transparent background, and I'm going to do it with a mask. So if you're not familiar with masks, basically if you're clicked onto that little box here, anything you paint with the brush black will be hidden and anything white will be still shown. So if I hit B to get my brush tool, and if I click this little drop down, in my tutorial files I've included some grunge brushes for you. So if you click on the little gear icon and go to load brushes, navigate to wherever you have the tutorial files and just double click on this grunge brush set and click load. I already did it, so I'm gonna hit cancel, and you'll get these grunge brushes that you see at the bottom here. So I'm just gonna select one of these, and so this is really gonna be you're gonna have to use your own creativity to figure out how you're gonna do this, but I'd probably advise that you may not want a perfectly 100% opacity. I kind of went down to like 60, somewhere in 60. And one thing I like to do is say I left click, I keep my mouse still, and say it didn't make it transparent enough, I'll left click again, and you can see it just kind of stacked those on top of each other. So you can see I'm starting to get this wear and tear look here. I also would maybe advise to go to File, Place, and then navigate to where you have that brick texture, and you can drop in that brick. I'm just going to grab this corner here, hold Shift and Alt and bring it out a little bit, and then hit Enter. And let me just click and drag and bring this to the bottom. This way we at least can kind of start to get some sense of how it's looking and how transparent it really is. Sometimes it's hard to see it when you just have the checkerboard. So let's just keep going with this. So really you just want to you don't want to use the same brush too often, or it gets really repetitive. I need to select back onto my mask layer. I had the brick selected, so left click on the white box for that mask. And you really just want to start, leaving. Sometimes I'll click twice. Maybe I'll put one of these here. And you see, I didn't put, if I start putting too many of these right here, you're going to see the repetition and it'll look kind of fake. So I'm actually going to Control Z and not leave that one there. But you can definitely get away with doing some of these edges with the same brush. So at this point, I would just advise you to, go through a different selection of these brushes. I kind of like how this one's a little more random, so it's not as obvious when you're reusing it. Sometimes I'm single clicking, sometimes I'm double clicking. If you want to be completely see-through, turn up the opacity. Again, this is really kind of up to your own creativity and how worn down you want it to look and how much time you want to spend on it. So I'm just gonna keep adding some more here so you can see what I'm doing. You also, to mix things up, you can I'm hitting the left and right brackets to change my size. So you can change the size of this. Depending on your image, this brush may not be the right size for you. So, work with the size and the opacity to get what you want. So I'm going to stop here. You get the picture. But one thing I will advise you to do that's really important is I think it's just important to get the edge way less crisp. So for example, let me find one that maybe this brush, for example. I'm just going to zoom in. I'm holding Control, hitting plus, and I'm going to hold Shift and left click and drag. And I just think it's really important that you kind of want to make the whole edge, it's just way too crisp if the edge isn't messed with at all. So I would probably spend maybe even the bulk of your time going through and just making sure that the edge is not crisp. You know, sometimes you, like I said, you can get away with using the same brush. It's kind of nice when one's kind of square-ish. You can usually make it work for around the whole shape. But yeah, I would just really advise making sure you don't have a crisp edge anywhere. So let me just show you where I got to. This was my finished image. If I turn on this brick layer, you'll see how it looks on the brick. And I'm going to turn that brick layer off. And I have saved this image out. I'm just going to go ahead and save it again. And let's jump back into Blender. So now it's going to be as simple as a shift and middle mouse until I see this texture that we had. I'm going to left click on that folder, and this time I'm going to select my Ghost Grunge, double click, and you can see there we have it. If I zoom in, you know, these lines are not crisp. You're seeing the brick wall through the artwork. If I zoom out, it just looks a lot more how you'd really see it. There's some real wear and tear to it. I also just want to point out, it is kind of flat with the lighting we have with this look dev mode. If I hit Z and go to rendered view, right now we don't have any lights in our scene, so you can't really tell what it looks like. But if I hold Shift, hit A, go to light and point, I'm going to hit G and then Z to move it on the Z axis. I'm going to hit G and Y to pull it away, maybe G and Z and bring it up. I'm just doing this so you can see how it looks with some different lighting. So let me left click on that little light bulb. Let's turn this up to, let's see, maybe even, let's start with 1,000. I'll go ahead and change that to 5,000. And if you zoom in here, you can see that we are getting these shadows with the brick. So let me just, so you can see why I did this. If I hit Z and go to look dev mode, it's kind of flat with this overall world lighting we have. I just want to let you know that if you Z, go to rendered, once you start adding in your own lamps, your own lights, it will start to look a bit better, and you can push how realistic the bricks actually look. All right, so that's it for this tutorial. In level 3, we're going to take this a little bit further, but you can see here how we've improved on this. See you next time.